Welcome to the American Lung Association in Greater Chicago Facebook Live series presented by Northwestern Medicine. Today, we are speaking with Felicia Fuller, the Director of Lung Health for the American Lung Association. She will be providing tips for parents and teachers of children with asthma to better manage this chronic illness in the new school year.
Hi, thanks everyone for joining. I have a few tips and then we'll entertain some questions. My first tip is the Asthma Action Plan. Every student or child that's diagnosed with asthma or has an asthma diagnosis should have one of these filled out. It is provided to you by your provider or your doctor. You can also get one from our website, or we can send them to you personally if needed. As you can see from the Asthma Action Plan, there's different divisions. We have our green zone, yellow zone, and red zone. All of these zones stand for a certain part of how you're feeling if you are a person with asthma. Green zone is perfectly well, you're breathing well, you feel good, you're exercising. Yellow zone, you may start to feel some chest tightening, some symptoms with asthma. And then of course the red zone, if you're in here, it's time to call an emergency service. So our goal is with any child with asthma is to stay in this green zone. Along with the Asthma Action Plan, you want to make sure that people in your life have these, or in the child's life. For instance, parent or caregiver should have one posted on their refrigerator or someplace in the home where everyone can see it. If a child spends a lot of time in another home, a dad or another mom or some other situation, then they should have one. And of course, this should be at the school, and not just one copy at the school. Ideally, the principal should have one, a coach or a PE teacher should have one for a child with a diagnosis, as well as a teacher. That way everyone is on board with a child with asthma's diagnosis. Meet with your school before the new year starts. So ideally, maybe you have already met with your child's teachers. For Chicago Public School, it's starting, as I know, on Tuesday. So you may wait for school to kind of get in session and meet sometime next week with your child's teacher. Not only with the child's teacher that you want to meet with, but try to meet with the principal and other teachers that your child may have, art teacher, PE teacher, coach, etc. Let them know that your child has asthma, has been diagnosed. Let them know if they're severe, they're moderate, low symptoms, maybe a lot of symptoms, hospitalizations, ER visits during the summer, or even previous years. That's very good information for anyone that's spending a significant amount of time with your child. Also, make sure during that visit that the Asthma Action Plan, you take that with you and give it to all those key people. Another tip is manage asthma triggers in the classroom. So this is pretty important. I know that we had a student that would get sick or have asthma symptoms every Monday because the engineers at the school were using very harsh chemicals in cleaning the classroom. When you're meeting with your child's teacher and the principal, try to ask them to use green cleaners or homemade cleaners with baking soda, water, vinegar, etc. We do have recipes for those if you would like to use those. Green cleaners are also found in the store as well. If your teacher or the school staff wanted a sample or wanted some of these cleansers, we could actually donate them at least for a one-time basis to see if those cleaning supplies work for that school engineer. These kind of cleansers are very critical to a child with asthma. So in most classrooms, there's more than one child with asthma or allergies for that matter. So using green cleaners, it would be very good in helping child with allergies as well as children with some sort of diagnosis of asthma. A fourth tip. Teach your child how to manage their asthma. Very, very important. Many children are diagnosed with asthma by 2 years old or even a little bit older, maybe 4. It is critical at that point that you start teaching your child how to use a spacer properly, how to use their inhaler properly, so that they are able to manage their asthma as they continue to get older. It's very important that children know how to, not just parents, but children know how to manage their own asthma. They are aware of maybe their particular triggers, whether that be teddy bears and dust in their room or animals or things like that. So it's very important as a child grows to learn how to manage their own asthma, and then they can have a better handle on it if they are in crisis or something like that. Lastly, I have assess your child's readiness to carry their own asthma medication. In Illinois, it is by law, children can carry their own asthma medications. However, some schools have different rules around this. Technically, it's sometimes in the principal's office, or ideally it should be in the classroom where the child that is diagnosed with asthma. We see many times where maybe all the medications of the child or the classmates of the school are kept in a backpack in the back of that classroom for all their children, and the backpack follows the child or all the children of that class around the school, so that they have access to their medication in case there is a crisis, or it is their control of meds so they can take it during the day. Of course, as children could become young adults in high school, we definitely see them carrying their own medications in high school. Any other questions?
Thank you, Felicia. We have one question from Facebook from Caitlin. She asks, where can I get an asthma action plan?
Good question, Caitlin. There's a number of different asthma action plans, and the American Lung Association definitely has one. You can get it off our website. We definitely try to promote you and highly encourage you to print this out in color. But also, you could also Google asthma action plans and also see a number of different kinds. If you don't have access to Google or even access to a website or a printer, please, my number will be provided at the end of this session, and you can definitely give us a call, and we can print them out for you and send them to you as needed. And we can also print them out and send them to any other clinics or anybody else that would need them in the Chicagoland area.
Great. We have a question from Sarah. She is asking, if the school nurse holds my child's asthma medication, how can I ensure that he or she has it in the event of an asthma attack?
Very good question. I know here in Chicago, for Chicago Public Schools, unfortunately, all our public schools do not have their own nurse on staff necessarily. One nurse may be responsible for up to 5 different schools. In that case, sometimes the medications are kept maybe in the nurse's office or something like that. Like I said prior, ideally, you would encourage your teacher to have the medications in the classroom where the child is spending most of his or her time. Not in a locked office somewhere where the nurse per se is. When you are in crisis and you can't breathe, you've got to, if you know what that feels like, you want to have access to your inhaler and your rescue meds as soon as possible. So I would encourage parents and caregivers and advocates of children to make sure that those medications are close. If the nurse's office is very close by and easily accessible, that's great. But if it isn't, as the spokesperson for this child, make sure that they are easily accessible, and that most of the time might be right in the classroom under a teacher's notice.
Thank you. John asks, are there certain days that my child's teachers should keep them inside during recess?
Awesome. Great question. Especially here in Chicago, that is a very good question, because we do have wide fluctuations of weather patterns here. For example, we are now about to go into the fall season where children with allergies as well as asthma may have symptoms because the pollen is so high. EPA, as well as the news media or the weather people, weather.com, always are telling us what the pollen numbers are or what's the high pollen rate days. When those days are when we have days like that or high pollen days, and again, you can go online to find this information, or there's even an app that the ALA has that you can download to find this information. But those are the days, the high pollen days are days that children with asthma should not be, or should be told to stay inside. Also, very, very hot days where the humidity is high and where the heat is very high. These can be triggers to some children. So children, young adults need to know their own particular symptoms. If very hot and humid days tend to be a trigger for you and your child, then please keep them in the house. And most schools, when it's below 20 degrees, keep the children inside as well. So high heat, low, very cold weather, and high pollen days may be days that you might decide to keep or ask your child's school to keep the child indoors for that time. Other than that, we don't try to encourage children staying in the classroom or at home. We want children outside. We want their asthma controlled. We want them to be able to play, exercise, because we do see a connection between obesity and children and asthma. But in those extreme situations, definitely take a second look and keep your child inside.
Great. Thank you so much. We have a question from Kaylee on Facebook. She asks, do the staff at schools get trained on asthma management?
Good question, Kaylee. I'd like to say all staff in Chicago Public Schools have been educated with the basics of asthma. However, that's just not the case. As we know, Chicago Public Schools have a number of different issues, and sometimes asthma does not fall at their priority. However, so we try to get the information out about asthma as much as we possibly can. If you are what I call a parent activist, go to your child's teachers, go to them principals and say the American Lung Association offers great teachers and facilitators that will come to your school and offer all of the staff Asthma 101, What You Need to Know, which is our basic program for teachers, staff, and all of those in school settings. We also have Asthma Basics, which is an online program that gives you the basics about asthma. Yes, these are mandatory and policies within CPS, but unfortunately all school staff does not have it. Please promote this with your school, because we are a smallish staff and we cannot promote it widely, but go to your child's school and let them know that these services are definitely available here at the American Lung Association. And if they give us a call, we'll gladly come out and educate their staff, children, and engineers.
Thank you, Felicia. That is all of our, well, actually, I'm sorry, we have one more
Okay.
from Carol on Facebook. And please feel free to submit your questions even after the Facebook Live session. We can answer your questions directly. Carol asks, will my child outgrow their asthma?
Awesome question, Carol. Once you have asthma, you do have it for the rest of your life. However, you may not have any more symptoms as you tend to get older. For instance, sometimes teddy bears with dust are on our child's bed and they want them there, and that they outgrow it. My kids tend to still, and they're a little bit older, have their teddy bears on their bed. They probably wouldn't like me to say that, but as they get older, those do come off. The dog may not sleep with your child as the child gets older, and certain triggers that are out there may not seem to exacerbate asthma symptoms, but you do have asthma for the rest of your life. You may not see it until you're older if you live in maybe a more polluted and urban environment. So my suggestion is, if you are controlled and then you're off your meds and you're feeling good, always still carry your rescue inhaler with you, because you never know, at some point throughout your life something may happen. And you don't want to be without it. So yes, you may not have symptoms forever and ever or for many years, but there could come a point where you may need that inhaler.
Great. Linnea asks, can colds or flu exacerbate a child's asthma?
Awesome question, Linnea. I should have brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up to me. The answer is yes. So definitely here at the American Lung Association, we promote all children and adults getting their flu shot for starters. But if your child does have a cold or bronchitis or some other lung condition or respiratory tract condition, if you're diagnosed with asthma, keep a special eye on them, because it can serve as a trigger, or the cold itself can be worse than it would naturally or normally be. So yes, we definitely promote getting the flu shot. If you don't know where to get one, please give us a call. We can let you know where to get one, and that's adults as well. But you also want to keep an extra eye on for those children that are diagnosed, because it can heighten the problems that a child with asthma may have.
Great. Thank you so much, Felicia. Thank you for watching our presentation on tips for heading back to school with asthma. Learn more and get the Asthma Action Plan at lung.org/asthma basics. You can also reach out to Felicia directly at 312-445-2503. And don't forget to register for the Lung Force Walk presented by Northwestern Medicine, happening on September 24th in Oak Brook. Thank you, everyone.